Brothers and sisters, I did not appreciate the fact that the movie was written by two white women. I did not appreciate the fact that the movie was written by two white women. But I have significant reason to believe that Viola Davis, our beautiful chocolate African queen, married to a black man, Viola Davis worked her black girl magic into that movie line. She was one of the main advocates for the movie itself. You're not going to convince me that that story was not remixed with some black girl magic, because you can feel it through the whole movie. Now, yes, it is important for Viola Davis to know that any story about African people must be told through the eyes and the mouths of African people. White people have no business telling our stories. I am 100% in agreement with that criticism, but yet and still, I will not dismiss the movie, because when I watch that movie, I can clearly see where Viola Davis interjected her black girl magic into that film. You feel it through the whole thing. So they may have written the story, she rewrote the story in a way that made it relevant to black people and black women. But yet, I stand with those who say, and I'm an advocate of those who protect the sacredness and sanctity of African people telling our own stories. It must be us. It must be us. I totally take issue with the fact that the writers were white women, but yet again, as I said, Viola Davis interjected her black girl magic into that script, and if you can't see that, you must be blind. One thing I did have an issue with, brothers and sisters, was the fact that in Viola Davis, I'm going to hold you somewhat accountable for this, because you're the reason we went to the movie. There was no need at all to interject the character of the transgender who was in King Gesu's court. If you saw the movie, you know who I'm talking about. Clean-haired brother, very effeminate. I'm assuming he was either LGBTQ or transgender. There is no historical record. There is no evidence. There is no proof at all that there was any king in Africa anywhere on the continent who had a transgendered man as part of his court. That was nonsense. That was complete blasphemy. And that was the rainbow gangers interjecting their narrative into a historical context that had nothing to do with them. It was totally inappropriate to put that transgender in that movie. I was disappointed in that. It was unnecessary. They probably done it to cater to their LGBTQ audience. But it was wrong and it was unacceptable, and it subliminally suggests that the king may have been bisexual. They don't say this, but when you see a transgender homosexual in the king's court of a traditional African ruler, this is his court, innermost circle, and one is a transgender, on some level, it kind of suggests that King Gesu may have been bisexual. There's not a single piece of proof that any traditional ruler in Africa, the oldest civilization in human history, no proof at all that any was bisexual. I'm very disgusted. It reminds me of the Harriet Tubman movie. When they had a black slave tracker who did not exist in the historical record participate in this movie, and even in the life of the character played by Janelle Monáe, who helped Harriet Tubman go on down on the Underground Railroad and bring our ancestors to freedom. He kills her. Why would you have a movie about one of the greatest ancestors who ever walked, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, greatest woman in American history, period, as far as I'm concerned, and you interject the character of a misogynistic black man who beats and kills Janelle Monáe in the movie when he never even existed. I equate that to this transgender being a part of King Ghezu's court. It was wrong and it was inappropriate. Another thing I took issue with in the movie was the anti-black male nature, contextual nature of the movie. Almost every black male character in The Woman King was dysfunctional on some level. Everyone, including King Ghezu, who had to be convinced by General Nanisca that he should not be selling Africans into slavery. Yes, the narrative was fictitious, but still, he could have been a much stronger character. Why wasn't King Ghezu much stronger? And shout out to John Boyega, who only dates African women. I appreciate you for saying that, brother John Boyega. Shout out to my London family. John Boyega is the first actor I know of in modern context who has went public in saying he will only date black women. Shout out to John Boyega. Great job, my brother. Great job. I just wish they would have made his character a little bit more masculine. When it was time for the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚁 to go to war with the Oyo Empire, he seemed somewhat timid, reluctant, and afraid. They made him appear as if he lacked confidence in General Nanisca and his kingdom's ability to repel the threat of the Oyo Empire. I thought his character should have had a little bit more Shango energy. I thought King Ghezu should have had a little bit more Shango energy. He was masculine. Okay. Wasn't effeminate, but not the masculinity traditional African rulers are known to have. I felt he could have been stronger than what he was. And I think they deliberately softened his character just a bit. Migan, the male general of the Dahomey army, he was the most alpha in the whole movie. Migan and Malik, the mixed race brother whose mother was from Dahomey, who came because he wanted to fulfill his mother's request, which was for him to return to his mother's homeland. Migan, the male general of the Dahomey army, and Malik, the mixed race brother, they were the only two positive masculine men in the entire movie. Unapologetically so. And you can add John Boyega's King Ghezu somewhat in second place. And I appreciated the fact that the mixed race brother, Malik, was loyal to African people, because a lot of times our mixed race brothers and sisters get a bad rap. A lot of times our mixed race brothers and sisters get a bad rap. So I appreciated the fact he was not a sellout. I appreciated the fact he was not a coon. I appreciated the fact he was loyal to his mother's people. I'm glad they did that. Shout out to Viola Davis for that, because when he first appears in the film, getting off the boat with the white slaver, I said they're going to turn him into a sellout and a coon, and they didn't. He fell in love with Nawi, and his character was masculine, and it was loyal to African people. Remember, when Nawi was up on the slave block, he interjected and forcibly tried to remove her from being sold. Now, yes, you can argue that he only cared about her, maybe not the other black people, Nonetheless, he stood up to the white power structure. And at the end, when the Niska came to liberate all the slaves on the coast being held for trade, he helped those Africans who that white enslaver tried to take with him. He freed them on that boat and allowed them to drown that enslaver. I really appreciated Brother Malik's character, because it underscored the role that mixed race Africans are not all sellouts. It underscored the role that there were mixed race Africans who participated in our struggle since the beginning of our interaction with the European. So I really appreciate Brother Malik's character. Migan, I appreciated him. Even though he didn't have a lot to say in the movie, he was never intimidated by Nanisca. He never felt any kind of way about the respect and attention that the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚁 had. He did his job and he maintained masculinity. See, we as black men have to learn how to maintain masculinity. We as black men have to fight to always maintain and stand in our divine masculinity. We have to make that a daily ritual, a meditation, and a practice. And I believe that Brother Malik and Brother Megan, the general of the King's army, they stood in their masculinity, and I appreciated that. Megan never appeared to view the women as less than him. He never tried to sexualize any of the women. I appreciated his character, and I wish they would have gave him more verbiage in the film. He was there, but he was mostly seen, not heard. Damn near every other man was a problem. 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚵, the Oyo general, he was a rapist, a pedophile, sexist, misogynist. You had his whole army who was committed to enslaving black people. I really thought the woman king misrepresented the true nature of black men. If there's one criticism that I have to give, which I think is more valid than Negroes talking about they shouldn't have made the movie because the homie participated in slavery. Really? We got gangster rappers making rap videos every day, misogynizing our women, glorifying gang violence and black death, and you don't protest none of them rap videos. I ain't seen you Negroes protest a rap video. I ain't seen you protest a reality show. I ain't seen you protest the NWA movie. Why you ain't protest and boycott the NWA movie? I'm not saying you should have, but if you got a problem with the movie being made because it is highlighting an era of our history where we participated in our own demise, didn't niggas with attitudes participate in the demise of the black man? So why is it okay to watch the NWA movie, but it's not okay to watch The Woman King? Somebody help me out. Do you protest 50 Cent series? All these gangster series on television? Do you denigrate and protest any of these sitcoms and television shows that misrepresent black men, black women, and the black family in a negative light? Here we go again with selective morality. Here we go again with selective morality. Here we go again with selective morality. They shouldn't have made the movie because the homie participated in slavery. Are you kidding? They didn't ignore that. It was a central theme in the movie. It was not hidden. It was put on display. And then you say, well, Naniska acted like she was against slavery. That ain't true. How do you know it ain't true? Can you show me any documentation where General Naniska was pro-slavery? Show me. You say, well, the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚵 participated in slave raids and helped gather the Africans of other kingdoms so they can be enslaved. That is very true. But they also lived in a kingdom where you do what you're told or you lose your life. So how much freedom did they actually have over their participation? And if you want to hold them accountable for that, and I don't have a problem with you holding them accountable for that, slavery is the worst sin ever perpetuated in human history. I don't have a problem with you holding the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚵 responsible for that, and King Giso responsible for that, and the Dahomey Empire responsible for that. But just so you know, the king did apologize to me and those members of the Dr. Umar FDMG tour to Africa that we took in 2017 when we sat down with the king of Benin. He did apologize for those of you who want an apology. Benin is one of the poorest countries in Africa, and you want them to give you reparations. Benin is one of the poorest countries in Africa, and you want them to give you reparations. Colonization destroyed them. They already got their karma, but you still want to check. I would argue that African countries should be suing black Americans for reparations because you're the reason they're still in neo-colonialism, because we will not organize ourselves financially to liberate Africa from economic slavery. That's right. Maybe the Africans should be suing black Americans for coming over here with our African talent, African genes, African DNA, African brilliance, and using it to make white people rich instead of Africa. Maybe they should sue you. Do you see how ridiculous this is? Africans suing Africans for European slavery. Africans suing Africans for European slavery. It's ridiculous. They owe us nothing. We owe them nothing except cooperation. The African owes the black American nothing. The American African owes the black African nothing but cooperation and loyalty. That's the one thing we owe each other. Cooperation and loyalty so we can get up out of this situation. And none of you who criticize the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚴 for participating in slave raiding will give them credit for fighting against the Europeans when they came to take the mother continent. Now we died in war against the Europeans. I also believe General Naniska died in war against the Europeans. Thousands of 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚴 gave their life to defend the liberty of Africa, but y'all don't want to talk about that. See, on a certain level, I think some of you just dislike the movie. Because number one, you want nothing to do with Africa. Number two, the movie had mostly beautiful brown and dark complected natural headed sisters in the movie. That's what I think most of you have an issue with. See, your internalized cracker, your inner European, your Willie Lynch that lives inside of you rejects the fact that this was a movie about black women who are unapologetically African, dark skin, nappy hair, and you don't want to see that. That's what your problem is. How dare you put that many dark-skinned women in a single movie? See, this is really about light-skin supremacy. That's what's really going on. You have an issue with the fact Viola Davis, a blue, black, purple woman with natural hair, was the lead. Naui, beautiful sister from South Africa, natural hair in the movie. Captain Ozogi, beautiful chocolate woman, natural hair. Ameza, the oracle, the priest warrior, the Ifa priestess, chocolate skin, nappy hair. The 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙴, dark skin. Yeah, you had yellow sisters in there, no problem with that. It don't matter what color you are, but my point is, for the purposes of highlighting the contradictions of Negroes who suffer from light skin supremacy, I think a lot of you have a bigger issue with the fact that these were dark-skinned, nappy-head women, and they were the lead. They were the focus. Finally, there was a movie by black women for black women, and you got an issue with that. A lot of you black men take issue with black women in strong leading roles. Dark-skinned, chocolate, nappy women in strong leading roles. That's what a lot of this was about. How dare they give us a movie with a bunch of nappy-headed black women? How dare they? And these nappy-headed black women are winning wars against black generals and white generals. Oh, yes. You need to go research the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙴. They won battles against Europeans. Oh, yes, they did. Give them their credit. They didn't just fight black armies. They fought white armies and won as well. Gave their life. How many of you Negroes criticizing the woman king have given your life fighting against white supremacy? Naui gave her life in real life fighting against white supremacy. How many of you Negroes have suited up for battle? The 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙎 had more balls than half you Negroes criticizing the movie. That's what your real problem is. You being upstaged by black female ancestors. You're being upstaged by black female ancestors. An army of women who stood toe-to-toe with the European enslaver and colonizer. He had the gun, they had a spear, and they still fought into the death. Go read what the white enslavers in general said about the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙎. They were amazed at the courage and fearlessness of these women. One general said, because I read and I research, one white general said he couldn't believe it. We bombed them and bombed them and bombed them, and those black women kept coming at us. He never saw nothing like it in his life. He never even read anything that even remotely resembled the courage and commitment that the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙎 had to their kingdom. I'm not upholding slavery, but I'm upholding that power of the black woman, that strength of the black woman, that courage of the black woman. I'm upholding that. For all I know, I have 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝙎 as ancestors. You think I'm not going to call on that warrior black female energy. We need that warrior black female energy because God knows the black man ain't defending our women. The black man isn't defending our women. The black man isn't defending our women. Thank God we had sisters like that with courage. Now, some of you say it was bad timing for a movie that's depicting masculinized women at a time while the government is promoting the effeminization of the black man and the destruction of the black family. I respect that criticism. I respect that analysis. You're saying right now men are being effeminized, women are being masculinized, and this woman seems to be, this movie appears to be supporting this government agenda to effeminize our men and masculinize our women, because after all, the women in the movie were stronger than the men in the movie. The women were the leaders. The movie was focused on the 𝚂𝚗𝙺𝚂𝙸𝙺𝚂, female-led, all-female, black, powerful military brigade. I understand. The timing probably, I can respect your criticism that the timing was a little off. And I can also concur with you that one of the reasons this movie did come out at this time was to underscore and support this agenda that black men can't defend black women and black women are going to have to defend themselves. I agree with that critique, but I would also argue, is it not true? Is it not true? Are black men systemically defending black women? Are we stopping them from being sexually abused, raped, harassed, sexually trafficked, killed by police, beat up by black men? I mean, I'm getting a video every week of a white man disrespecting a black woman somewhere. I'm getting a video damn near every week of a white man disrespecting a black woman somewhere, and the black men standing around aren't doing anything about it. So some of that narrative is deserved because we are not about the business of protecting our sisters, black men. We have not been about the business of protecting our sisters.